Welcome to This Explainer. How exactly do you autopsy perfection? How do you take apart the greatest career in football history and lay its components out piece by piece to understand how a human being became an absolute athletic deity? Today, we're not asking if Pele was the greatest. Instead, we're looking at the cold, hard facts, the physics, the psychology, the politics. We are going to conduct a complete, clinical, forensic examination of Edson Arantes do Nascimento, the eternal Pelé. 1,283. Just let the sheer size of that number sink in for a second. For decades, this has been the widely accepted, almost mythical number of goals Pelé scored across 1,363 games. It's a statistic that genuinely feels like mythology.
But here's where the real audit begins. When we apply rigorous forensic accounting and separate out the official competitive matches from exhibition tours and military service games, we arrive at a very different number, 767. And for the core of this explainer, we're going to focus heavily on the physics and the reality of those 767 official goals, really separating the man from the myth.
Let's jump into Section 1, Anatomy of a Prodigy, the physics of the 767. So let's look at how a kid from the dirt streets of Bauru actually achieved these staggering official numbers. Well, before the crown, there was trauma. Back in 1950, Brazil suffered the Marcanazo, this completely devastating World Cup final loss to Uruguay right on home soil. A 9-year-old Pelé watched his father weep over that defeat, and right then and there, he made a concrete promise. I will win the World Cup for you. Forensic psychology tells us that an oath like this, forged in a father's grief, creates a relentless drive. This promise literally became the operating system for his entire life.
And man, did he have the biological hardware to run that operating system. We're talking about extreme outlier metrics here. Accelerated muscle development and this extraordinary spatial awareness that he honed by playing with a sock-stuffed ball on rock-hard dirt. Medically, his physique combined the fast-twitch muscle fibers of a sprinter with the core stability of a gymnast. So by the time he was a 17-year-old at the 1958 World Cup in Sweden, Santos had taken this raw genius and completely weaponized it. Look at how this physics engine operates in a real-world scenario. Take his famous goal in the 1958 final against Sweden. It is a data point of just impossible efficiency. Step 1, a perfect chest trap executed under immense pressure. Step 2, an instantaneous flick right over the defender's head. And Step 3, a volley, struck with a flat-footed power generation technique that was biomechanically decades ahead of its time. 6 goals in the knockout stages. As a teenager, he fulfilled that promise to his father for sure, but the evolution was just beginning. Which brings us to Section 2, Evolution of an Attacker, from goal scorer to orchestrator. We've seen the 1950 trauma and that insane physical peak in '58. But jump ahead to 1966, and we find stark forensic evidence of targeted, systematic physical destruction. Pelé was brutally fouled and basically kicked out of the World Cup in England. He vowed he would never return. But he overrode that vow. The fact that he came back in 1970 is the ultimate testament to his reconstructed physicality and his absolute tactical rebirth. In Mexico in 1970, he wasn't just a pure goal-scoring cyclone anymore. He evolved into something new, the prototype false nine. A deep-lying orchestrator, he was now operating with the competitive cognition of a chess grandmaster, controlling space and time on the pitch, which ultimately earned him the golden ball. His 1970 highlights? They're pure instantaneous calculation. That famous blind rolled pass to Carlos Alberto wasn't just instinct. It was a computed calculation of trajectory, teammate velocity, and defensive geometry. And his leap to meet Jairzinho's cross? His hang time was measured at a superhuman 0.9 seconds. Just absolute biomechanical perfection, locking in his myth. All right, Section 3, the uncounted goals, the weight of the unofficial. So, what are we supposed to make of this discrepancy? Alongside the 767 official competitive goals are roughly 516 unofficial or exhibition goals. That is a massive slice of the pie. But honestly, arguing over the math is kind of a red herring. It completely misses the wider context. Because the impact of those uncounted goals is staggering. Many of them came against world-class opposition during these grueling exhibition tours that literally funded the Santos club and spread his global legend. Others fulfilled military service obligations. But look at 1969. His mere presence on a tour triggered a 2-day ceasefire during the Nigerian Civil War, literally just so both sides could watch Santos play. Think about the sheer weight of that for a second. No other athlete has ever been a belligerent, neutralizing, diplomatic event.
Pele didn't just score goals, he scored history. His presence literally stopped a war. Moving on to Section 4, the man behind the math, the cost of the crown.
The king's crown was sometimes made of lead. We have to impartially examine the complex political realities of the global Pelé brand. On one hand, he was the ultimate ambassador, elevating Brazilian prestige globally, shaking hands with presidents and popes, and fronting massive commercial campaigns. But on the other hand, there was a near-total silence during Brazil's military dictatorship. It was a strategic, self-preserving ambiguity that shielded his commercial empire. He was a publicly traded symbol, and that carried an immense duality. Navigating a racist world while acting as a global icon is a heavy, heavy burden. The forensic psychology here suggests a man of flesh, compromise, and calculation who maybe never truly wanted that massive weight but bore it anyway. He hid any weariness behind his trademark, impenetrable smile.
And that brings us to the final data points of this audit. Edson passed away in 2022 at the age of 82 from colon cancer. The pathology report was just a technicality, really, the gradual failing of an organism. But the entity of Pelé, immortal. His funeral cortege beautifully and tragically passed the house of his 100-year-old mother, closing a historical loop. He left a legacy that proved the impossible can, in fact, be measured.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That childhood promise on the dirt streets of Bauru. Long after the final result sheet is tallied, the truth persists. He kept his word. He won his father a World Cup, and in doing so, he gave the world a version of itself it had never dared to imagine.
He dissected and rebuilt the beautiful game, leaving it forever changed at our feet. But I want to leave you with this final thought. He reconstructed the modern possibility of the sport. But when you look at those 767 official goals today, do you just see the forensic math? Or do you see the magic? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.